1. Have you ever stood there, in the middle of a heated argument, listening to someone say things that are completely wrong? You feel the injustice burning in your chest. You have the perfect comeback, but instead, you just smile. Or you stay silent. You nod, you swallow the bitterness, and you do whatever it takes to make the tension disappear. They call you mature. They tell you that you're understanding, or the bigger person. It sounds like a compliment, doesn't it? But deep down, it feels like a prison sentence. Why is it that being the good one, the child who never caused trouble, the friend who always listens, has left you so utterly exhausted? The truth is, your understanding nature isn't a sign of early maturity. It's a survival mechanism. It's a shield you built long ago to hide a terrifying secret. The fear that if you ever stop being easy, if you ever stop pleasing, you will be abandoned. Tonight, we're going to stop praising your silence. We're going to talk about the heavy price of being the understanding one, and why it's finally time to reclaim your voice. 2. Society has a bad habit of mislabeling pain as a virtue. We look at a person who never complains, who absorbs every blow without a sound, and we call it high emotional intelligence. We praise them for their grace and their self-control. But there is a vast, silent ocean between true EQ and the extreme understanding we're talking about today. Real emotional intelligence is a tool. It's the ability to manage your emotions. But for you, it has become a cage. You aren't managing your emotions. You are erasing them. In psychology, there is a term for this that many people have never heard of: echoism. It's named after the mountain nymph Echo from Greek mythology. In the myth, Echo was cursed to never have a voice of her own. She could only repeat the last words spoken by others. If you are an echoist, you live in a constant state of self-erasure. You have become so terrified of being perceived as narcissistic or selfish, or, worst of all, a burden, that you've turned down the volume of your own soul until it's on mute. You don't have opinions. You have reflections of what others want to hear. This isn't kindness. It isn't a choice you make from a place of strength. It is an internal compulsion, a desperate, invisible force that whispers, "Stay quiet, stay small, and you will stay safe." 3. Living as a highly understanding person means existing in a state of constant, exhausting surveillance. Psychologists call this hypervigilance. Think of it as having a built-in emotional radar that never shuts down. You aren't just listening to words. You are scanning the microscopic shifts in the room. You notice the slight tightening of a lip, a 3-second delay in a text response, or the heavy way someone sets down their keys. You aren't doing this because you're nosy. You're doing it because your nervous system believes that peace is your responsibility alone. You aren't living your life. You are busy being the shock absorber for everyone else's friction. This leads to a profound self-erasure. You become so skilled at blending into the needs of others that your own identity begins to dissolve. Take a man named Min, for example. To his friends, Min is the ultimate success story. He's the guy who never complains, the colleague who always covers the extra shift, the partner who always knows exactly what to say to calm you down. But one evening, after a long week of fixing everyone else's problems, Min sat alone in his car. He asked himself a simple question: what do I actually want for dinner tonight? And he was met with nothing, just a vast, cold silence. He realized he didn't know his own favorite food, his own hobbies, or his own dreams, because he had spent 30 years being the person everyone else needed him to be. When you spend your life as a mirror, you eventually forget that you have a face of your own. And here is the cruelest part: the paradox of being okay. Because you are low maintenance, because you never cause a scene, the people around you stop checking in. They assume you're invincible. They admire your strength while you are drowning in plain sight. You become the loneliest person in the room, Not because you are unloved, but because you are invisible behind the mask of your own perfection. 4. To understand why your brain is wired this way, we have to look back at the architecture of your childhood. Most understanding adults were once children who weren't allowed to be children. In psychology, we call this parentification. According to the research of Gregory Jurkovich, this happens when the natural roles of parent and child are reversed. You weren't just a kid. You were your mother's therapist. You were your father's emotional anchor. You were the peacekeeper in a house full of storms. You learned very early on that if you showed your own anger or sadness, the whole house might collapse. So you became the good child. You became the easy one. Alice Miller, in her profound work, The Drama of the Gifted Child, explains that these children possess a tragic kind of gift. You were so gifted at sensing the needs of your parents that you traded away your true self just to keep a fragile connection with them alive. You learned that love wasn't something you deserved simply for existing. It was something you earned by being useful. This isn't just a memory. It's carved into your biology. Your amygdala, the part of your brain that detects threats, is constantly in high alert mode. For a normal person, empathy is a choice. But for someone who grew up parentified, empathy is a survival skill. Your brain believes that if you don't detect a shift in someone's mood immediately, something terrible will happen. You aren't just being nice. You are subconsciously trying to prevent a disaster that happened 20 years ago. 5. We often view being understanding as an act of pure selflessness. But if we look closer, we find a hidden layer, a secret contract you've signed with the world. By being perfect, by never complaining, you are subconsciously trying to control how others treat you. It's a silent bargain that says, if I'm good enough, you won't have a reason to get angry. If I anticipate your every need, you will never have a reason to leave me. It's not just kindness, it's a shield. You use your understanding to manage the unpredictable emotions of others, hoping to manufacture a safety that you never felt as a child. But here is the danger of living without boundaries. When you radiate the energy of someone who will accept anything, you inadvertently become a magnet for the wrong people. Manipulators and narcissists have a radar of their own. They are drawn to your lack of limits like a moth to a flame. They don't see your understanding as a virtue to be respected. They see it as an open door to be exploited. While you are busy trying to understand why they hurt you, they are busy taking advantage of the fact that you will never say no. Your greatest strength, when left unguarded, becomes the very thing that keeps you trapped in toxic cycles. 6. Imagine your soul as a magnificent house. For years, you have kept every light on in the hallway, the fireplace crackling, and the table set with the finest tea, all to welcome every guest who knocks. From the outside, you look like a beacon of warmth. But if we go down to the basement, we find the real you. The owner of the house is huddled in the dark, shivering and exhausted, because there is no energy left for them. You have spent so much fuel keeping the public rooms bright that you've left yourself in the cold. It is time to come upstairs. Being understanding toward the world is a beautiful gift. But being understanding toward yourself is a non-negotiable duty. Authenticity will always be more valuable than approval. The people who truly love you don't want a perfect, hollow mirror. They want the real, messy, and sometimes difficult person that you actually are. Start small. Practice saying no to the tiny things that drain you. Reclaim your right to be inconvenient, because the moment you stop being so easy for everyone else, you finally become possible for yourself. 7. Has there ever been a time when saying no felt like a crime? If you felt that crushing guilt just for choosing yourself, know that you aren't alone. Tell me your story in the comments. Let's start a conversation about the beauty of being difficult. If this journey into the quiet corners of the mind resonated with you, Please subscribe and hit that join button to support our deep dives. And if you're wondering why your silence felt so necessary for so long, you might find your answer in our next video on the lifelong impact of emotional neglect. Thank you for being here. In a world of noise, your true voice is the only thing worth hearing.